I was 12 years old when my life changed forever. Before everything happened, my life was simple, strict, and quiet. My name is Vowed. Lived in a small village in Afghanistan, surrounded by mountains. Even as a child, I felt something missing. I did not know how to explain it. I was not rebellious. I did not hate my father. I only felt empty sometimes, especially at night. My mother was gentle but afraid. She loved me, but she rarely spoke against my father. In our home, my father's word was final. One evening, everything began to change in a way I did not expect. It started small, so small that I did not understand its importance at first. A radio. An old, weak radio that barely worked. I found it while cleaning a storage room behind our house. It belonged to someone long ago. I fixed it as best as I could and hid it under my sleeping mat. At night, when the village was quiet and even the dogs stopped barking, I turned it on very softly. Most of the time, I heard music or news I did not understand. Then one night, I heard a calm voice speaking in my language. The voice talked about hope, about love, about forgiveness. It talked about Jesus. Not as a distant prophet, but as someone close, someone who cared deeply for people who were hurting. I did not know why my heart beat faster. I was scared, but I kept listening. The voice spoke gently, like someone sitting beside me. It talked about loving your enemies, about a God who knows your pain, about light in darkness. These words felt different. They felt warm. They felt close. I did not stop praying the way I was taught. I did not stop respecting my father. But something new had entered my heart. A quiet seed. I did not know then how much it would cost me. I only knew that for the first time in my life, I felt seen. That was the beginning. The beginning of a journey I never planned. A journey that would take everything from me and give me something far greater in return. After that first night with the radio, I could not forget what I heard. During the day, I tried to live as usual. I followed my father, I studied, I prayed, and I stayed quiet. But inside me, something had changed. It felt like a small light had been lit in a dark room. I did not understand everything, but I wanted more of that voice, more of those words that made my heart feel less heavy. Every night, I waited until everyone was asleep. I wrapped the radio in cloth so no sound would escape. I listened carefully, always afraid that someone might hear. The programs did not come every night, but when they did, I felt like they were meant just for me. The speaker talked about Jesus caring for children, about him noticing people that others ignored. He spoke about forgiveness, even when someone hurts you deeply. Those words stayed with me during the day. I began to notice small changes in myself. I became kinder without trying. When other boys teased a weaker child, I stopped joining them. When my mother looked tired, I helped her without being asked. I did not know why I was changing, but inside, I felt peace when I did what was right, not out of fear, but out of love. Fear still followed me everywhere. In my village, stories were told about people who left the faith of their fathers. Those stories never ended well. I knew the danger, even at 12 years old. Sometimes my hands shook as I turned on the radio. Sometimes I thought of stopping. But something inside me kept pulling me back. One night, the voice spoke about Jesus being close to the broken and the rejected. As I listened, I felt like someone was near me, even though I was alone. I cannot explain it clearly, but it felt like comfort. Not loud. Not frightening. Just calm and steady. In my heart, I began to talk to Jesus quietly. Not with memorized words, but with my own thoughts. I told him I was afraid. I told him I was confused. I told him I wanted to know the truth. Slowly, my belief became more than listening. It became something real inside me. I did not tell anyone. Not my mother. Not my friends. Not even myself fully. I hid it deep, like a treasure and a danger at the same time. My father started to notice changes. He watched me more closely. When I seemed distracted, his eyes followed me. Once, he asked me why I was quieter than usual. My heart raced, but I told him I was tired. He nodded, but I knew he was watching. At night, I sometimes dreamed of being chased. Other nights, I dreamed of light breaking through darkness. I woke up confused, afraid, and hopeful all at once. I felt like I was standing between two worlds, not fully belonging to either. I did not know how long I could keep my secret. I did not know what would happen when it came into the open. I only knew that whatever I was discovering about Jesus felt true, even when it scared me. And deep inside, I felt that I was not alone, even if the whole world turned against me. As days passed, my secret became heavier to carry. It was like holding water in my hands and trying not to let it spill. I became careful with every word I spoke and every look on my face. I learned to control my eyes so they would not reveal what my heart was feeling. But even a child cannot hide forever. One afternoon, while I was helping my father clean some old books in his study, my hand began to shake. I do not know why. Maybe fear had been growing inside me for too long. One of the books fell to the floor. When I bent to pick it up, my father noticed something in my pocket. It was the small radio. I had forgotten to hide it properly that morning. His eyes changed immediately. They were no longer calm or patient. He asked me where I got it. My throat became dry. I told him I found it and fixed it. He asked what I listened to. I said news and lessons. That was not fully a lie, but it was not the full truth either. He did not shout. That silence was worse than anger. That night he questioned me again. This time he asked about ISA. My heart felt like it stopped. I did not know how he knew. Maybe someone saw me listening. Maybe someone heard me speak differently. Maybe God allowed the truth to surface. I was scared, but something inside me felt tired of hiding. I told him that I had heard teachings about Jesus and that they brought peace to my heart. I said I was not trying to shame him or our family. I only said I wanted to understand the truth and know God in a way that felt close and loving. As soon as the words left my mouth, I knew my life would never be the same. My father's face became hard. He spoke about betrayal, about dishonor, about danger. He said I was still a child and that such thoughts were poison. He said he would correct me and remove this darkness from me. I tried to explain, but he would not listen. My mother stood in the corner, silent and trembling. Her eyes were filled with tears, but she said nothing. From that night, my freedom was taken away. I was watched all the time. I was not allowed to leave the house alone. I was made to repeat prayers loudly and constantly. Food tasted like dust. Sleep did not come easily. Fear followed me like a shadow. At night, when everyone slept, I cried quietly. I spoke to Jesus in my heart. I did not ask for escape. I only asked for strength. I felt that he was near, not removing the fear, but helping me stand inside it. He let me know that even if people rejected me, I was not rejected by God. Days later, my father told me we were going on a journey. His voice was calm, too calm. I knew something was wrong. I kissed my mother's hand before leaving. She held me tightly for a moment, as if she wanted to say something but could not. That was the last time I saw her face. As we walked away from the village, the mountains looked taller than ever. The road felt longer. My heart was beating fast, but deep inside, there was also a strange peace. I did not know what awaited me, but I felt that my life was no longer in my own hands. The journey away from the village was quiet. My father walked ahead of me, his steps steady and firm. I followed behind, my eyes fixed on the ground. The wind carried dust into the air, and the sun burned my skin, but I felt colder inside than I ever had before. No one spoke. Every step felt like it was taking me farther away from the life I knew. We reached a place far from the village, where there were no houses, no voices, only open land and silence. My heart was beating so loudly that I thought my father could hear it. He stopped walking and turned toward me. His face showed no anger, only a hard determination. He spoke about duty, about protecting faith, about removing shame. His words felt heavy, like stones falling one after another. I tried to speak. I told him I was still his son. I told him I did not stop loving him. I told him I only wanted to follow what I believed was true. My voice was shaking, but I spoke honestly. He did not respond the way I hoped. Instead, he said pain was sometimes the only teacher. He said this was for my own good. What happened next is hard to remember clearly. Not because it was loud or dramatic, but because fear can make the mind feel far away. I remember crying. I remember calling out to God. Inside my heart, I called to Jesus, not with words learned from anyone, but with a desperate need for help. I felt weak, small, and helpless. Pain came, sharp and overwhelming, and then I felt myself fall. I do not remember everything after that. My body felt broken, and my strength left me quickly. My father left me there, believing I would not survive. The sound of his footsteps faded, and soon there was only silence. I lay there alone, the sky above me wide and empty. I felt like I was fading, like the world was slowly slipping away. Fear tried to take over my heart, but something else was there too. In that moment, when I had nothing left, I felt a calm presence. It did not remove the pain right away, but it gave me hope. He revealed to me that my life was not over. He let me know that I was seen even there. I whispered prayers with what little strength I had. I told Jesus I trusted him, even if I did not understand why this was happening. I told him I was afraid to die. I asked him to stay with me. As the sun began to lower in the sky, I felt myself drifting between sleep and wakefulness. But I was not alone. I knew it even as my body grew weaker. That place, meant to be the end of my life, became the place where my faith became real. Not strong because I was brave, but strong because I had no one else to hold on to. In my weakest moment, I learned what it meant to trust completely. I do not know how much time passed after my father left. The sun moved slowly across the sky, and shadows stretched and changed shape. Sometimes I was awake, sometimes I was not. My body felt heavy, and every breath took effort. The pain was strong, but stronger than the pain was the fear of being forgotten. I was just a child lying alone in a wide land where no one was supposed to survive. At some point, the wind picked up. It cooled my face and dried the tears on my cheeks. I remember thinking about my mother. I wondered if she was crying, if she knew where I was, if she believed I was already dead. That thought hurt more than anything else. I wanted to call out to her, but my voice was weak and broken. Inside my heart, I kept talking to Jesus. Not in long prayers. Just simple thoughts. I told him I was tired. I told him I did not want to die alone. I told him I did not understand why love could cause so much pain. In that quiet place, I felt him let me know that he was near. Not far away. Not angry. Near. That knowledge did not change my situation immediately, but it changed my heart. I stopped feeling completely alone. As the evening came, I heard a sound. At first, I thought it was my imagination. Then I heard it again. Footsteps. Voices. Fear rushed through me. I did not know if they were good people or bad people. I wanted to hide, but I could not move. All I could do was breathe and hope. A group of travelers appeared in the distance. They were moving slowly, guiding animals and talking quietly among themselves. One of them noticed me lying there. I saw his face change when he came closer. He spoke loudly to the others, and soon they surrounded me. I was scared, but their eyes were not full of anger. They were full of concern. They gave me water. They covered me. They spoke gently, even though I could barely understand their words. One of them carried me. As I was lifted, I felt myself slipping again, but this time it felt different. Safer. I felt like I was being taken out of death and into care. As we moved away from that place, I felt deep inside that this rescue was not an accident. He revealed to me that my life had been spared for a reason. Even though my body was weak and broken, my heart felt stronger than ever before. I did not know what the future held, but I knew I was still alive. And I knew who had stayed with me when everyone else walked away. When I woke up fully, I was not under the open sky anymore. I was inside a small room with rough walls and a low ceiling. Light came in through a small opening, and the air smelled of herbs and smoke. For a moment, I did not know where I was or how I got there. Then my body reminded me. Pain, weakness, and a strange emptiness where my right hand used to be. I became afraid again. Not the sharp fear from before, but a slow, heavy fear that sat in my chest. I looked around and saw a woman sitting near me. She noticed my eyes open and spoke softly. Her voice was calm. She gave me water and told me to rest. I did not understand everything she said, but I understood kindness. The travelers had taken me to a small settlement far from my village. There were people there who helped the injured and the sick. They did not ask many questions. They only focused on keeping me alive. Days passed slowly. Sometimes I slept. Sometimes I stared at the wall. Sometimes I cried quietly when no one was near. It was hard to accept what had happened to my body. I felt ashamed and confused. I wondered how I would eat, write, or work again. I wondered if I would ever be seen as normal. I wondered if God was disappointed in me. These thoughts came especially at night, when everything was quiet. In those moments, I felt Jesus let me know that my value was not in what I could do with my hands, but in who I was. He revealed to me that I was still whole in His eyes, even if my body was not the same. That understanding did not remove my sadness, but it stopped it from destroying me. Healing was slow. My body grew stronger little by little. I learned to sit up again. I learned to walk again. I learned to eat with my left hand. Every small step felt like a victory and a reminder that I was still alive. The people around me encouraged me. They smiled when I made progress. They treated me like a child worth saving, not a problem to hide. Sometimes I asked myself why I survived when others did not. I did not have an answer. But deep inside, I felt that my life had a purpose beyond pain. I felt that my story was not meant to end in that lonely place. It was meant to continue, even if the road ahead looked very different from the one I had imagined. As my body grew stronger, my thoughts became heavier. Healing the body was one thing, but healing the heart was another. I thought often about my village, my home, and my parents. I wondered if my father believed I was dead. I wondered if my mother still waited for me in her prayers. These thoughts brought pain, but they also helped me understand that I could not go back. The life I had before was gone. The people who helped me knew it was not safe for me to return. They did not explain everything, but I could see it in their faces. They spoke carefully when my village was mentioned. One day, a kind man sat near me and told me that staying there forever was not possible. He said there were places where I could be safer, places where I could learn and grow without fear. His words scared me. I was only 12. I had never been far from home. That night, I did not sleep much. I talked quietly in my heart to Jesus. I told Him I was afraid of the future. I told Him I did not know how to live in a world without my family. He let me know that even though I was leaving familiar ground, I was not leaving His care. He revealed to me that sometimes safety comes with change, even when change feels painful. A few days later, I was taken on another journey. This time, it was not with my father and fear, but with people who wanted me to live. The road was long and tiring. I watched the land change as we moved forward. Mountains turned into flatter ground. Villages came and went. Every step felt like a step away from my past and toward something I could not yet see. I missed my mother deeply. I missed the sound of familiar voices and the rhythm of daily life. But inside me, there was also a growing strength. I was learning that life could still move forward, even after great loss. I was learning that faith was not only about believing when things were easy, but trusting when nothing made sense. As we traveled, I listened more and spoke less. I observed people. I saw kindness in unexpected places. I saw that not everyone wanted to harm me. These small discoveries helped heal parts of my heart that fear had damaged. I began to understand that God's world was larger than my village, larger than my pain. By the time we reached a safer place, I was no longer the same boy who had left home. I was still young, still learning, still broken in some ways, but I was alive. And I was beginning to believe that my life still had meaning, even with all that had happened. In the new place, I had time to think. My body was healing, my wounds slowly closing, but my heart carried memories I could not forget. I remembered my father's eyes, cold and determined. I remembered lying alone, thinking the sun would rise and I would never see it. I remembered fear, pain, and silence. But I also remembered the presence that stayed with me when everything else left. I remembered Jesus letting me know I was not alone. I began to understand that my survival was not random. He revealed to me that my life had been spared so I could learn to trust completely. Not just in moments of comfort, but in moments of fear and pain. He showed me that my faith could grow strongest in the places where everything else is lost. I realized that even in the desert, even when my hand was gone and my father had turned away, I had been held by something far greater than myself. I spent days and nights quietly thinking about what I had lost and what I had gained. Losing my hand, losing my home, losing my family for a time, it was impossible to forget. But through all of it, I could feel something new. A peace that was deeper than fear. I could feel a hope that was stronger than pain. And I could feel a love that did not depend on what anyone else thought of me. Sometimes I prayed slowly, silently, as if each word had weight. I told him I still felt afraid. I told him I still hurt. I told him I wanted to understand. In return, he let me know I was forgiven, that I was chosen, and that my life had purpose. I understood that faith was not only about believing when life is easy. It is about holding on when the world wants you to let go. Slowly, I began to trust myself again. I learned to use my left hand for tasks I never thought I could do. I began to write again. I began to eat, to walk, to live in a small way. Every small action felt like a victory and a reminder that I was alive because I was meant to be alive. I started talking quietly to other children and to people who cared for me. I shared small stories about hope, about courage, about the presence that had carried me. Though I could not speak openly about my faith where I came from, I learned that even whispers of truth can plant seeds in the heart. Through all of this, I understood something powerful. Life is not measured by the things we hold in our hands, but by what we hold in our hearts. Even with what was taken from me, I had received something no one could take. A faith that could survive anything, a love that could never fail, and a presence that would never leave me. As I grew stronger, I began to see that my life was no longer just about survival. Every morning I woke up, I felt a quiet reminder that I had been spared for a reason. He revealed to me that even my pain, even my loss, had a purpose. I realized that my story could help others who felt hopeless, afraid, or alone. Even as a boy who had lost so much, I could share what I had gained, a faith that carried me through the darkest moments. I started small. I spoke quietly to children around me, telling them about courage, about hope, about a presence that never leaves. I did not speak their language of religion exactly, because I wanted them to understand love first. I told them that even when life feels unfair, even when people hurt you, there is someone who sees you, someone who will never abandon you. I wanted them to feel what I had felt in the desert, the quiet assurance that I was not alone. There were days when fear returned. Memories of my father, the pain, and the loneliness would come back, and I would feel small again. But each time, I would remember that I had survived worse. Each time, I would remember that when I had nothing left, he stayed with me. This memory became a shield for my heart. It taught me that my past did not define me, my faith did. People began to notice a change in me. Even though my right hand was gone, my spirit felt strong. I learned to smile in ways that encouraged others. I learned to listen to people's hearts, even when they were silent. I learned that hope could be shared quietly, in gestures, in patience, and in love. The same presence that saved me in the desert was teaching me to give courage to others. It was in these small acts that I began to understand what it truly meant to follow Jesus. Faith was not only about being rescued. It was about allowing what had been given to flow through me to others. It was about using my life, broken as it was, to be a living message of love, patience, and trust. I realized that even suffering could become a bridge to others, and that even pain could become a tool for hope. Now, every time I think about my past, I do not feel only sorrow. I feel gratitude. Gratitude for survival. Gratitude for the love that stayed with me. Gratitude for the chance to share what I had learned. I understood that my journey was not meant to end with fear or loneliness. It was meant to grow into something bigger than myself, something that could inspire, comfort, and guide others in their own struggles. Now, as I look back on everything that happened, I understand what it means to truly walk with God. My journey began with fear, loss, and pain, but it has grown into faith, hope, and love. I want to share with you what I have learned, not as someone perfect, but as someone who has been broken and made whole again in spirit. Faith is not easy. Following Jesus does not mean that bad things will never happen. It does not mean that people will always understand you or that life will be fair. For me, my faith began in a moment when everything seemed lost, when I was weak, alone, and afraid. He revealed to me that even in the worst moments, we are not abandoned. That is the truth I want you to carry with you. Love is more powerful than fear. I learned that even when people hurt you or reject you, love can heal. It does not mean ignoring danger, but it means holding on to kindness and compassion even when it is hard. Love gives strength to the weak, courage to the fearful, and hope to the lost. It is a choice we make every day, just as I chose to trust Him in the desert when no one else was near. Prayer is your lifeline. Speak quietly or loudly, with memorized words or with your own thoughts. Speak about your fear, your doubts, your pain, and your hope. Prayer connects you to Him. Even when you feel alone, prayer reminds you that someone is listening and that your life has meaning. I learned that the voice of God can be quiet, subtle, and gentle, but it is always real and always near.